I'm here with Matthew Portas, who is the Managing Partner of Appleleaf Accountancy in East Yorkshire. Matthew's been a customer of TaxCalc and Engager for some time. Matthew, tell us a little bit about Appleleaf.
So Appleleaf Chartered Certified Accountants was formed in 2017. We've grown year on year, every year, for the last nearly 10 years now, 9 years. And we've got a team of 10 of us, so we've expanded the team, and yeah, things are going really well. So
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about TaxCalc first of all. Why did you choose TaxCalc? What were you using before, and how did that come about?
So when I started the business in 2017, I was looking at the various options, and TaxCalc was one of those options, but we did decide to go with a competitor of TaxCalc at the time. It was completely cloud-based, so I thought that was the way to go. That was where the industry was heading. So got it all installed, and basically that was when the first problems started to arise. So what they promised, they certainly didn't deliver. I remember, quite clearly one Friday afternoon where I had a real issue with the corporation tax. It was just seemed to be randomly changing figures, which was rather concerning. I was working on a particularly large client, and I rung the helpline on the Friday afternoon, and appreciate some people do break off a little bit earlier on a Friday, but when I really did need some help with this particular issue, the phone just rang and rang and rang, and I rang sort of multiple times and nobody answered. And I thought, this can't go on. Starting my new business, I need a software company that's going to support me through that journey, and also be there if I do have any issues. So started looking again, and TaxCalc, certainly from a pricing point of view and functionality point of view, was just starting to bulk out their offering in regards to accounts production, tax returns, company secretarial. So I decided to go with TaxCalc, and I'll be honest, we've never looked back. You can safely say TaxCalc is a staple of Appleleaf Chartered Certified Accountants. It's something that I would never change.
Fabulous. And then I asked the same question about Engager. So what were you using before for a practice management solution? And why did
With practice management, it was a bit more of a checkered history. I seem to, in the industry, a lot of people say, changing your practice management is like the one thing you really have to do. Every accountant avoids it. It's the big upheaval. And I seem to, with Appleleaf, we seem to change it every year. It was, I just couldn't find that solution. So, we originally was with Accountancy Manager, and then we moved to a couple of others. We were off the beaten track, and then we moved to Pixie, and none of them really had that offering that we needed as a small firm. So we looked around, and just by chance, as you do watching YouTube on a Sunday morning, I saw a video by Johan, who was one of the founders at Engager, describing what this new product was going to the market. And I thought, well, this looks interesting. So I watched a bit more, and there was one thing that from all of the other accountancy products, practice management systems that I looked at, Engager, or Client Engager at the time, that sort of Johan showed, was the process of taking on board a client and then also requiring or sending professional clearance to the new accountant. But also you do have clients that leave you, and having that disengagement. And I think the main thing that stood out for me was that this wasn't written by software developers that thought were giving us the solution of what they thought we needed. It was written by accountants and built by accountants, and I think from sort of the first-hand experiences, which is the thing that really stood with me. So after watching the YouTube video, I watched many more of Johan in his spare room doing tutorials and things, and signed up. I think it was the following week. So yeah.
So you'd been round the houses trying out everything, and you finally alighted on Engager.
Yes.
And that was before the integration as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so that was it was post-COVID, so it was probably, we've been with Engager literally since it started. So whether that was 21, 22, so somewhere around there. But it was literally just starting to get a little bit of momentum, and it was certainly well before the merger. Yeah.
And then, so how has that developed? I mean, how do the two solutions, I mean, now they're integrated, how are they kind of functioning collectively within Appleleaf?
So when I heard about the merger between Engager and TaxCalc, it was it was music to my ears, because I suppose, being a little bit critical, one of the pain points for us was we were having to was effectively having to keep two databases up to date. So it was having to update TaxCalc database for accounts production and tax returns, but also for our practice management was having to do exactly the same for Engager. So that was, it was consuming a bit of time, but we liked the software, so it was just one of those, we'll have to grin and bear it sort of thing. But like I say, when we heard that the two software companies were merging, then it was music to our ears. And how it's helped is, you've got first off, just the flow of information back and forth between the two softwares. So if you update some details in Engager, it will flow through to TaxCalc and vice versa. But also, that's sort of just the basics. What you guys are looking to do going forward is that expand that integration, so we've got more sort of fluid information, like tax information that we've prepared in TaxCalc flowing through to Engager, so we can inform our clients. So I think for us internally, it's making a lot better processes, a more clean process, systems internally with less sort of friction points.
And in terms of core functionality, have you lost anything, or have you got everything that you need? Have you gained anything?
Absolutely not. No, I mean we've if anything, we've gained sort of functionality. Like I say, having that flow of information back and forth really does help a small practice, because we haven't got resources to. We haven't got the luxury of having a dedicated admin team behind us to keep on track with everything that's going on. So having that, having that sort of clean functionality between the two is absolutely brilliant, certainly for a small practice like ourselves.
So you've now got full onboarding, offboarding, letters of engagement, letters of disengagement. So is that something that is that really accelerated? Are there any measurable benefits now?
Yeah, 100%. So for what Engager are doing with the pricing, building out that proposals, that was something that, again, I'd looked around, couldn't really find the obvious solution, and that built out. When we adopted Engager, that got built out, and now we can do all our proposals through Engager. And it works really well. We can usually do a proposal in the meeting with the client, or certainly a few hours afterwards we can send that over to the potential new client, so in a matter of a few hours.
Fantastic. And then finally, one of the things that people are concerned about when they're perhaps using a different solution and they're thinking about moving over to TaxCalc and Engager is the kind of pain of switching and the difficulties that they have in actually making that transition. How was it for you, and what would your advice be to someone who had those concerns?
Yeah, so I think being completely transparent in regards to the changeover. I mean, we had done it quite a few times with previous softwares, and when I did it, granted, it was when the Client Engager was in its infancy, so it was still developing the roadmap. So what we had to do was we had to download the database from TaxCalc and then upload it into Engager, and I think at that time you only got one shot at it, so we had to make sure everything was pretty much populated for it to go into Engager. I do know that onboarding system has got a lot slicker now, and probably even more so now that Engager and TaxCalc are together. You know, I'm sure it'll be a lot more of a simpler system. So, but that is one of the biggest pain points for accountants when we are looking at changing practice managing systems. How easy is it to move from what we've got to the new system with the minimum amount of downtime? You know, that's critical. You know, because obviously when you're not sort of actively working on client stuff, you know, it's costing money. So that is having that sort of onboarding process and keeping it as smooth as possible is absolutely critical.
And how long did it take you? What was there downtime at your end? Or?
It probably took round about, and this, bearing in mind, Andy, this is, you know, a few years ago, so I think it's a lot quicker now, but it was probably about a full week of just sort of getting everything together from our database in TaxCalc and then uploading it into say 5 days. And that was probably about 150 limited companies and probably 300-400, you know, sole traders and tax returns. So right. It was quite a big number.
It was quite a big job. And then
yeah.
When you came out the other side, how quickly were the team able to start using it, and were they kind of up to speed?
Yeah, really quickly, pretty much straight away. Just watching the videos that had been done, I wouldn't say we really had any downtime at all from that point of view. You know, the key thing is with both pieces of software, TaxCalc and Engager, they're both intuitive. They're really easy to use. So, you know, the staff were able to adopt it really quickly and, you know, hit the ground running. Yeah, we hardly had. Obviously, you refine things over time and, you know, how you make things better and more efficient. But in regards to downtime, once it had been uploaded, hardly any, yeah. Finally,
would you be able to point to, particularly with TaxCalc and Engager working together, a measurable benefit? Would you be able to say you were particularly more efficient by a certain degree?
Yeah, just by having that integration, we are saving. You know, if you're looking at quantifying it, you know, I would say you guys with the integration and keeping everything, you know, the flow of information back and forth, you're more than paying for yourself, and I think that's all you can really ask for a software company. If you can pay for yourself in regards to efficiencies that you create within the practice, then I think you can't do any more really. So, you know, it's probably about 5, 6, 7 grand a year in admin time.
In savings. Fabulous. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Really, really interesting. We're proud to be part of your firm, your wonderful firm up there. So hopefully we'll see you soon. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks. Bye.